Welcome to the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo. And this week we're speaking retirement, annuities, and the season that we currently find ourselves in. My guest in studio is Mohammed Jaffer from Mojaf Financial Services, and we're going to be unpacking this very pertinent issue of why a retirement season. Assalamu alaikum to you, Mohammed.
Wa alaikum salam, Abdu-Raof, and to your beloved, to our beloved viewers.
Mohammed, whenever it comes to February, there's three things that springs to mind. And the one is obviously the South African address by the President in Sona. The second is the budget speech by the esteemed Finance Minister. And the third thing is the retirement season comes to an end at the end of March, at the end of February at least. So on the 28th of February, basically, the retirement season comes to an end. So there's obviously encouragement from the advice fraternity, like yourself, the financial advisors and planners, who punt the fact that one should look at topping up retirement annuities before the end of February. I think what we need to do is we need to unpack the reasons behind it and what the benefits thereof are.
Absolutely, Abdu-Raof. In fact, I don't think there's much in South Africa nowadays that you get for free. And the tax breaks that we get with topping up your retirement savings is one of those freebies. So I personally grabbing it with both hands. So yes, it is definitely an opportunity. And unfortunately, what happens in South Africa, what has happened in the last couple of years is that our people, South Africans, normally leave these things for the last minute. And then that last week, we are inundated with people wanting to top up their retirement savings, which unfortunately some people then miss the boat. But I'll talk about that, more about that in a minute. Abdu-Raof, what is a retirement annuity? A retirement annuity is where the government incentivizes us to save for our retirement. And how do they incentivize us? If, for argument's sake, your salary is 10,000 rands and you contribute 2,000 rands to a retirement annuity. Now, instead of being taxed at 10,000 rands, you now deduct the amount that you are contributing to your retirement savings off your salary. So you'll take the 10,000 less the 2,000 leaves you with 8,000 rands, and you then get taxed on the 8,000 rands. So that's the tax benefit that you get. So immediately, if you fall in a 30, 35% or 40% tax bracket, your investment has already grown by 40%. Immediately. So there's very few, second point is there's very few investments that I know of, in fact any investment that would give you that kind of return, plus the growth that you get on your funds that you've invested in.
Now we know, Mohammed, that the government's very, very keen on us saving money by ourselves, because at the end of the day, if we don't have retirement savings and one day we reach the age of retirement, we become the burden of the government. So that would probably be the reasoning behind why these tax breaks are given. So.
Absolutely, Abdu-Raof. In fact, I just saw a stat over the weekend that 96% of South Africans, when they reach the age of 65, cannot retire financially. 35% of them will have to continue working. 32% is dependent on family members, and the balance then ends up with the state pension, which is dismal.
If one looks at the state pension, I mean, it's 1,500 rand per month. And if you're staying in a retirement village, basically that just barely covers the cost of that without living.
So, Abdu-Raof, let's get back to the point of retirement annuities. Now, you get two types of retirement annuities. You get the insurance type of product, and then you get the unitized RAs. My strong appeal is to people to stay away from the insurance retirement annuities, because firstly, they're very inflexible, they're costly, and they run for a specific period. All right. Now, you know that life is not in a straight line. We get sometimes the life throws us a banana, or it will throw us a lemon. And we have to adjust accordingly. Now, with insurance RAs, in fact, as advisors at times, it's very difficult for us to understand the cost behind the retirement annuities. And as advisors also, we earn less from unit trust RAs than with insurance RAs. Insurance RAs, on the other hand, unit trust RAs, on the other hand, you can stop, start, increase, decrease at any time with no penalties. And the cost is very, very transparent.
Yeah.
You can see exactly what the cost is, what the advisor earns, what the insurance company for admin costs, what the fund manager earns. So everything is very transparent. So my advice would be that you go for unit trust RAs instead of insurance RAs. Now, Abdu-Raof, up to last year, we know that the calculation to work out what is the amount that I can use to top up my retirement savings was very difficult. In fact, even us, we battled with getting the calculation right because of different variants and different things that you had to take into consideration. What they've done is from the 1st of March last year, they've simplified that. And on top of it, the Treasury has increased the amount to 27.5% of your taxable income that you can now put into a retirement annuity or any pension or retirement product. And they've changed the term taxable income. So that makes it very, very wide, Abdu-Raof.
Now you've touched on something very, very pertinent, Mohammed. There's when one looks at the salary slip or one looks at a synopsis from an HR manager, they always quote two things: non-retirement funding and retirement funding. So for a layman sitting and reading that, it's very confusing because one doesn't know what is retirement funding and what is not retirement funding.
Absolutely.
So is this basically what
that is it? Yes. Yeah. Now your retirement funding would typically be the amount that you would use back in the day, prior to March 2016. You would use that figure, the retirement funding. Now they've changed it, so they say taxable income. Now, what includes or what constitutes taxable income? So obviously you will have your taxable income from your salary, from your employer. Then you can add on top of it, say for instance that is 10,000 rands. All right? So you can take the 10,000 rands, you have 20,000, 30, 40, 50, whatever the amount is. So you take that amount. Then on top of that you add, if you've got any rental income, less expenses, you add that on top of that. So say for instance that's another 3,500 or 4,000 rands. So now it goes to 13 or 14,000 rands. All right. Then on top of that, Abdu-Raof, we know that capital gains tax. We get taxed on anything more than 40,000 rands gain that we've made if we sold an asset. Now, if for argument's sake we've sold a property, if it's a investment property, if you've made a gain of more than 40,000 rands, the balance must be added to your taxable income. So if you made a gain of 200,000 rands for the year, you can now subtract the 40,000 rands and the 160,000 you can now add that to your taxable income. So that amount then even goes even more. Right? However, if you sell your primary residence, the rebate that you get is 2 million. So, that is then okay. The chances of you making a gain on your primary residence of that amount is maybe slim. But at least you can add the balance to your taxable income. Dividend tax is excluded because they are treated differently. So now you take that lump sum that you've got and you work on 27.5% for the per annum for the year, and you now can top up your retirement savings by the balance. If you've been contributing 3,000, 4,000 a month towards your retirement saving, you can work that out for the year, and the balance you can now top up into your retirement savings, and you get the full benefit within this tax year, Abdu-Raof.
Now, I know in previous years, Mohammed, if you contributed towards a pension fund, a provident fund, that would form part of your contribution that you, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would form part of the contribution that you could put towards a retirement annuity.
Absolutely.
Does that still stand?
Absolutely. So you take the total amount. So for instance, if you're fortunate enough to have a pension fund at work, you'll take the amount that you're contributing to your pension fund, you add on to that your contribution to your retirement annuities, and then you work out your taxable income, as I stipulated. Now you take your salary, any rental income, any capital gains that you've done for the year. If there's any interest income, I know, look, we're speaking to a majority Muslim audience, but if for argument's sake there are people that have income, interest income, more than 23,800 Rand for people under the age of 65, they can then add the balance to the taxable income as well, and that pushes your taxable income even further. So you can see that once you've added all that up, it's a significant amount that you can add into your retirement saving, and have the tax deduction within this year. Then when we get to retirement, Abdu-Raof, this is how retirement annuities works. Now when we get to retirement, you have access to 1/3 of your pension fund. Obviously, provident funds, as legislation stands now, you have access to the full amount, which up to today, I still don't understand why the unions objected to the changes that the Treasury wanted to push through last year. I don't understand, because it can only be good for the man industry. But be that as it may. So when you get to retirement, on a pension fund and a retirement annuity, you have access to up to 1/3. 500,000 of that 1/3 is tax-free. The balance then is taxed at a tier basis. All right. So, and then sorry, not the balance. If you withdraw a third, and a third is more than 500,000, the first 500,000 will be tax-free, and the balance of the third will then be taxed at a tiered basis.
So previously that was 300,000, wasn't it?
Correct. That a couple of years back. Yes, that's gone up a couple of years ago. Then, Abdu-Raof, the balance, the 2/3, is then transferred into either a living annuity or a life annuity to give you your monthly pension. And then the underlying investments is structured. If you go for a living annuity, is structured according to the way you want it done. That's where the skills of your advisor comes in, of how it is structured.
Mohammed, before we get too far into this, we have to pay the bills, so we're just going to take a short break. You're watching the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo, and we speaking retirement annuity and the top-up season. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.